Welcome to the Thoughtful Software Podcast. On this show, your hosts, Fahad and Andrew, discuss emerging technologies, interview industry experts, and share their insights on how to build incredible software. Ultimately, thoughtful software is all about helping people be better at what they do. We believe thoughtful people and thoughtful software can change the world for the better. Join our Insights newsletter at skiplist.com to be the first to receive our latest podcasts and in-house articles. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Today on the Thoughtful Software Podcast, we're sharing a conversation with our friend David Kravitz of Karma. Karma is a Slack application that's designed to build high-performance team culture, build happier teams, set goals, track performance, and reward excellence. David, Andrew, and Fahad are sharing their thoughts on the psychology of reward systems, handling positive and negative feedback, and what makes a great remote working culture. Remote offices are becoming more popular today, and it's pivotal to create not just a productive working environment, but an engaging community in the remote workplace. Let's get to it.
David, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's great to talk to you again. The first thing we always try to start out with is if you could, just give us an introduction on yourself and KarmaBot, and then we kind of go from there.
Thanks, Fahad. It's the pleasure is all mine. And thanks, guys, for inviting me. So a little bit about myself. So my name is David. I'm from New Zealand, just quite away from States, small couple of islands in the middle Pacific. And so I run the digital studio here in Auckland with one of the other guys. His name is Stas. We've been in the industry for roughly, I think, about 15 years. Feel a bit old now. And so it's mainly like design and development studio. So we do a lot of projects for our clients, and now and then we hustle a little bit on the side and doing some side projects. Some of them, or most of them, will fail, and some of them seem to be successful. So then I think Karma is one of our side projects. We kind of, become something bigger than just a side project and convert it to a startup. So I think that's a little bit about myself.
No, that's great. And I think you're our first international guest. So that's pretty cool. We're expanding, Andrew, getting international, man. Maybe tell us more about KarmaBot. What is it? And then why you decided to build it.
Sure. Well, Karma or KarmaBot, or we're trying to call it Karma now, is a bit of an employee engagement tool, employer engagement product. It's the nice way how to say thanks more easily on chats, and then we get those thanks converted and link it to some nice rewards, link the company values, and do kind of the whole circle of activity around just the basic appreciation, the daily appreciation. I think that's what the Karma is in the nutshell. And we've started, we kind of started the idea of the product roughly around 3 years ago. And at a time, we've just been looking for a product that would keep our employees engaged, and just a tool to give a more formal feedback, I guess, or more informal feedback, and just to celebrate those small wins. We kind of looked around the products at the time. None of them really served our purpose 100%. Plus, I was really, really strongly opposed any subscription model, so I didn't want to really sign up for any product that had a subscription at the time. And we thought we'll just build a small prototype just for ourselves to solve this small problem. We became excited about it through the coming months, and we kind of expanded product with more and more functionality up to the point that kind of felt that someone else can leverage all that nice instruments and all that nice data that we have. And that's how we thought, hey, let's make a product out of it. Let's put it out there.
What was it about the other platforms that when you were reviewing that you felt like this didn't fit for you? Like I'm assuming this is not a full-blown performance review software, but you obviously you're out there looking at other products. What didn't you like?
Well, from what I remember, there was a product called the Plus Plus which not existent now, but if some people just will remember that. And that kind of provided the way how you can give feedback, and it was nice and engaging way. But for some reason, they didn't have local leaderboards. Like the leaderboard they have at the product was global across all the companies in the world. And I think if you use it in a kind of fun way, it would have worked. But if you'd like to use that more for performance, from performance perspective, you would kind of spend a lot of time looking where's your placement on the global leaderboard is. So that didn't work for us. And I think Hey Tucker was just appeared around that time as well. And we looked at it. And I think that had a subscription model behind it. And the free version had really, really limited functionality at times. So that functionality, I think, was easily reproduced by us within a few days of development. It's a much bigger product now, but it wasn't as big back then.
You're talking about just within messaging platforms, right? Not like a full standalone software.
No, I think at a time again 3 years ago, Slack just became something massive, and everyone who've been using emails and who've been using other forms of communication, like Skype, for example, we've been using Skype as well, which was nice at a time again. And like migrating to Slack was a major thing for us as a company. And we thought, wow, instant communication and chats, that was so new and that was so like next level. So we thought if we would look for a system that would help us with this micro feedback and appreciation and engagement, it has to be within Slack, because we spent so much time within Slack, it just didn't make sense to leave Slack and and work within the other system. We would kind of work alongside the messaging platform.
Question for you on that. Slack's real popular in the remote companies, and remote companies are getting more and more prolific. Bigger and bigger companies are going remote, and Slack seems like a platform people are standardizing on. Teams is the other one. But what's really hard is actually measuring collaboration. Giving people kudos and all that's important. But in an office, you can see when two people are working together because you're walking by their cubicle or their workspace and you see them working. But it's hard, to see two people DMing unless you're a creepy surveillance state company. And so we don't want to do that. But it'd be cool, the one thing that we want to be a culture point here at Skipless is collaboration, pair programming, helping people mentor. And, kudos is one way of doing that, but have you guys thought about expanding KarmaBot to do that? And if you have, what kind of, how do you do that? Or what thoughts do you put into that?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of measuring collaboration, I think you've brought a really nice point that it's really hard to see a person who is not seated in the same office with you. So I think the measuring of collaboration and in our product would be kind of delivering the result. And if you have a few systems in place, like task management and chat management and the roadmap and everything else, and the vision from product makers, it all comes kind of together, and you're just measuring how you deliver within your product, and then just celebrate those small wins. In the end of the day, we don't have to sit behind the shoulder of a person who does work either in the office or remotely in Slack, but evaluating the result and just making sure that effective communication means that we can bring feature earlier or deliver an outstanding result, and thus celebrate it with our product. If I don't understand your question.
Yeah, you did. My other question is kind of tied to that. One thing that when you look at great cultures, people tend to care about each other. KarmaBot definitely associates points with people giving kudos, and that's a form of caring about each other. But that's another thing, personally, I would like to measure is, how often are people helping each other, right? How often am I going over and saying, hey, Fahad, do you need my help? Or how can I help Fahad close this deal? Or Fahad might be asking engineers, how can I help these people develop software? And, we should be looking for opportunities to help each other. Is that something you would build in KarmaBot? Or do you think just having KarmaBot and using the leaderboard and all of that kind of leads to a culture where people want to assist each other and want to care about each other?
It's kind of interesting how I can answer that question. So there's a bit of a chicken and egg situation where would people reach out to other people with help and offer their help if karma wasn't in place? Would that come naturally? So I think that karma helps, because if you start giving thanks for just ordinary things, and it probably, it's not even help, like even if you post a nice picture and then if you celebrate a small win and then the other person understands that regardless of what they do, it'll be noticeable. So they try to do that more often, and thus they offer their help more often. Maybe subconsciously think that they'll receive a celebration for that, but at the same time, it kind of becomes a habit. So I think karma definitely helps with that. I don't think that you consciously thinking, yes, I have to reach out to that person because he'll probably will celebrate my help. But it just happens on the subconscious level. And then you notice that people do start collaborating and offer their help and do all those things more often. The more you use your karma, the more you use karma. And I'm kind of using my company as an example of that, because we've been using karma for quite a while. And I do see an improvement where people will actually voice out a lot. Like if there's a problem on chat, they'll jump in and say, hey, I can really help. And I'm not really sure if they do that because they'd like to earn an appreciation, or would that come subconsciously now.
One thought I have regularly about our culture and how we work, obviously those are two cultural points I want people to have, which is we care about each other and we collaborate. I think great things are built via collaboration, and software is a team sport. So you need that. Are you a remote company, or are you do you guys have an office you work out of and you just happen to use Slack as a communication tool?
We are a bit of a mixed scenario. So we have an in-house team. So we are an in-house team of 5, and then the other 15 are outsourced all around the world. So we are kind of a mix. So we have a core office who can kind of attend if something happens, and kind of the whole management and sales would be in one place, and then development and product management is remote.
So how do you manage that, right? So there's obviously the remote people have FOMO, right? Their fear of missing out what's going on in the office. Maybe that's not a problem for you. And then how do you, I don't want to say check in with people, but how do you ensure that your culture extends borders and extends to the other people that are mostly remote?
I think that we definitely trying to have at least a couple of company calls throughout the months, just to make sure that everyone just get one in place. We turn the video on and just chat and joke and share the company information, trying to get the remote people to travel to our office. But that are kind of traditional ways of how to keep remote people engaged. But at the same time, I think with the use of our product, we can also kind of engage on the next level. Like, let's say we have this rewards module, and then people would redeem coffees and the redeem other things, and we will fulfill those rewards. We kind of check out, what's going on, with someone redeemed like 4 coffees at the same time. And I said, well, hey, you guys had some kind of a meetup or something like that. And we kind of chat a little bit about it. And I had a chance to, to understand how one guy who's in Thailand right now, so, what's happening in his life. And that's again with the use of our product. So I think just regular check-ins, make sure that we talk a lot face-to-face, kind of maybe erase that line office and remote work, in my understanding.
Yeah.
So you use a mix of a traditional and obviously some new tools.
So I had a couple of things. So I'm fascinated more about the psychology behind high performance team cultures, I think, is what you're trying to get after, with Karma and these types of tools. Like before Slack and before Karma, you maybe would do like quarterly reviews or weekly one-on-ones, and there may be a gap in the feedback that you received. So now you have a real-time look at what type of feedback you're receiving, and what people are able to share their views about the work that you're doing, which is really interesting. So you essentially created a new norm, and
Mm.
I'm interested in the psychology behind giving somebody karma. Does that make them more effective and happier? Like, is this a better new norm than what we had before?
That's a really good question, and I think to answer that question, like a good answer to that question comes to the conversation I have with our clients, because it's really hard to evaluate what difference does your product make by just looking at your company. And things that I do hear from our clients is that they have a really uplifting feeling when you give karma and when you receive karma. So this is one thing, and the other thing is when they're trying to mix the traditional and the new ways of evaluating and making the high performance teams. So when they again sit down together at the quarterly meeting, it's what our clients find out, that it was really hard for them to remember what was going on a few months ago. And with the use of Karma or any other tool similar to Karma, they have that information in front of them, and they are able to positively reinforce that appreciation data, which happened a few months ago, and they might already forgot about it by the time that they had this annual evaluation. So I think, Pat, as you're absolutely right, and it kind of this micro feedback and continuous loop of feedback becomes a new normal. And instead of waiting for a quarter or for a week or even for a month to give someone feedback, you kind of do this in a positive and continuous way. And even if you're still using the traditional methods, it's easier for you to recollect what was going on just a few months ago.
It's really interesting. Like, if you think about just how social media works or how the apps on your phone work, you get the little notification in the app that you have 3 unread messages, and so you're like, okay, I want to go check it, and or somebody's DM'd you or something like that, and it's there's always studies around this like dopamine hit of, okay, I got a message or somebody's liked my photo. It's almost the same thing, right? You're trying to encourage that constant, hey, you did a good job. And then the more you give people karma, I mean, I could see that people get addicted to it, right? They're like, okay, I want more karma points. And I find that a better use of a psychological trick to get engagement, rather than just like looking at photos and social media, which I think is pointless.
Exactly. And I do quite agree with you here. I think no one ever got hurt by receiving too much thank yous. I think you only receive benefits if someone thank you consistently. But if you don't receive receive a thank you from a person and you kind of expected that to happen, you feel bad about it, you feel sad about it. So and I think it's a really good line between the social media and likes and also collaboration and kudos in a way, whereas they kind of work in the same way.
I don't remember. I don't know if any of you guys know why in social media or even like Karma or any of these types of tools you don't have like a negative or a dislike. I don't know if Facebook has that, but sometimes I think they ran into this challenge where, like, if somebody says, hey, somebody passed away, and there was no other button but the like button, and so that's why adding other like emojis and things like that so people could, express different feelings. Here, I mean, yes, it's great to always say thank you, but we also can learn a lot from the mistakes that we make. And I'm not sure I'm not really sure like what that might look like if I could share, say, hey, this was an issue or this was a mistake, and this is how we think we can improve. And then when we have that quarterly review, I can kind of go back and see all the thank yous and the kudos and the karmas, plus see some of the challenges that happened during that time.
So I think people, Facebook did try a dislike button. They ran a experiment with it, and it was, there's situations dislikes appropriate, like nobody. Well, okay, I won't say nobody. There are a lot of assholes on the internet, but the vast majority of people aren't out there to cause psychological harm to people. But there are some people that do that. And so dislike was vastly used by people trying to just cause psychological harm. And the other thing too is like even the 10% of people that are doing it just to be an asshole, the 90% of people might click dislike without knowing it or do something, and that can really cause people to feel really bad. And if you're trying to breed a culture of, inside your workplace, bringing this back to karma, if you're trying to make people feel better, more involved, positive, I don't necessarily want people clicking dislike on my mistake, because it kind of piles on people. And, look at Twitter, how easy it is just to pile on somebody. They make one mistake, they say something, they misphrase something, and then thousands of people pile on them, telling them how stupid they are, how terrible they are, that they should quit their jobs, in some cases getting people fired over just maybe misspeaking even. I mean, some people hold some pretty terrible viewpoints, but that doesn't give anyone the right to bully them or to attack them or to do what people do today on the internet. And I think dislike would just give those monsters another tool to continue to pile on people and make them feel.
But there's got to be room for learning from your mistakes. I mean, that's the extreme, right? Twitter is just a black hole, and it's the trash.
But Twitter's not an extreme. People pile on you no matter where you go. The media piles on people now too, right? Like you can't escape it. If you do something incorrect and you have a significant profile, you're going to get piled on, right? People are going to show up at your house. They're going to dox you. They're going to that's just what happens. And even for trivial things in 2019, people get doxxed. Like I said, there's people that have said some legitimately terrible things and done some legitimately terrible things. But I've seen people post programming. Like I saw this thing on 10x engineering. This guy posted, and it seemed innocent. The guy was from India. He was talking about 10x engineers. I think he was wrong, but again, whatever. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion. I'm not over here telling him that he's wrong in the macro. I'm just saying from my viewpoint, he's wrong. And people piled on him. And his opinion, while incorrect in my opinion, again, it's my opinion, like people were calling him factually incorrect, told him he should quit his job, that he was terrible, that he was a terrible person. They doxed him, and that was because he had the nerve to suggest these are the 10 things that a 10x engineer does. And this is how to find a 10x engineer. That's what he had the nerve to do.
Okay, well,
it wasn't like it's ridiculous.
But let's focus on. I agree with that point, and that's terrible. But what about within the company, walls, right? You're inside. Our team, and somebody's delivered a project. I do want to give them, kudos and karma for that. But there was also issues within that. So what do I do then?
You can be one of the first to download our podcast and read our latest articles each week by subscribing to the Thoughtful Software newsletter. Sign up today and receive a free copy of Andrew's ebook, Thoughtful Software Principles. This is a treasure trove of software wisdom you won't find anywhere else. In this free resource, Andrew dives into details on how to build really great software. You can go to skiplist.com to subscribe and we'll immediately send you a download link. That's skiplist.com. Now, back to the show.
Like you guys both have really valid points, and I think the negative karma or negative feedback is something that we kind of not struggle, but we do think about that component of our product.
I wouldn't call it negative feedback though. I would say constructive feedback. Like, how do you incorporate that?
Yeah, we actually had a few names for that particular component. We called it with a nice word of professional accountability. We even learned a nice word for that.
Oh, that's
So,
really nice.
Yeah, professional accountability.
I'm using that, Andrew.
Well, it's okay. Fahad
But-
minus. Learn from your
but
mistakes.
like and again, because since you guys have completely different views, so like you've had this more professional view, whereas you can come into the person, let's say, well, you've done a production release, and and the whole server went down, some engineer gone home, and didn't come back to work, didn't answer his emails or anything like that. The whole your product was dysfunctional for 24 hours. You come back, what can you do about it? You cannot really give him anything positive. Like there has to be a portion of a professional accountability. Like you have to talk about it and just make sure that that won't happen in the future. And that is your side, Fahad. And we've kind of been on your side with our product for quite a long time, and we actually used the minus in our product for quite a long time. But then it happens in a perfect world. It really happens where everyone have this nice sense of good and bad, and and professional accountability becomes something acceptable. And within our product, there are still clients who would use minus as the way of providing feedback. There are companies like that, but unfortunately, the reality is, and I'll be on Andrew's side here, that that really, really thin line between professional accountability and bullying is something that most people won't see. And most likely they're just going to slide in the bullying, even not consciously, but subconsciously. Even if they don't, the person who receives that feedback would feel bad. And because it happens in kind of everyone see it happens, and because it happens somewhere in a public channel, they will feel bullied even if they've done something not acceptable. So we kind of thinking about it, if in the future maybe you could provide something like one-on-one feedback, but that's definitely cannot happen publicly. And
I'll add a couple things to that. I think first and foremost, mistakes are a growth opportunity, and they should be positive, right? Framing them in a positive way. If we're going to make mistakes, if you're doing anything ambitious at all, trying to change anything, you're going to have failures. You're going to have setbacks. If you have no failures, no setbacks, you're not pushing yourself. That's true, right? Of course, I can bake cookies, and my cookies turn out great every time if I don't change the recipe. But I don't change the recipe. I'm not growing. I'm doing the same thing. I'm going through the motions, following the same recipe, the same temperature, the same stove. So it's going to give me the same results. And so, but if people are bullied, they're going to cringe. They're going to go away from failures, and it's going to push them into a mode of, I'm not going to try it. I'm going to go through the motions. I'm not going to push myself. I'm not going to be aggressive, because when I fail, I get the minus, and all my friends and peers see that I'm a loser, right? And no one wants to feel like that. No one should feel like that. And I think the second thing is, why do people come to work at all? And that's because they want to eat food and have a house, and so pay, right? And repeated mistakes should either result in a loss of pay, aka getting let go, or in not bonus, right? So you can, if you stay the same, then you should get the same pay you had last year, right? Your value didn't go up. And so I think karma to me is a signal, but it's not the entire picture either, right? If you have a lot of karma, positive karma, that's a very positive signal to me that people like what you're doing. But I would never go and say, oh, well, he has 57 karma, so I'm going to give him 5.6% raise this year, right? I wouldn't do that. I would look at the entire picture. Okay, so he has a lot of karma, but I get feedback from his peers that he's a complete dick. So he's a great worker, but he's an asshole, right? So what do we do there? Do they have the cultural component we need and all of that? So That's probably an extreme example for Karma, given that it's a chat system, but I'm going to keep with it. So it's a nuance. It helps definitely and provides a good signal into the day-to-day. How does this person interact with their peers, and how do they view the interaction? Because I doubt people giving Karma if the person's not contributing in a positive way.
Oh, you're absolutely correct there, and I think what we say to our clients is if someone done something on Karma, just don't give them negative karma. Maybe just don't give them positive next time, or just have some feedback, and keep the positive reinforcement, because maybe look for other things the person done nice in a nice way. Just give them maybe straight feedback somewhere, one-on-one, maybe in a personal message, but then try to reinforce the positive things the person done, and just make sure that they improve on the component they failed by, and by celebrating their wins in the other components where they're strong.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's interesting too, like when you have weekly one-on-ones, and I find this really fascinating, where you're always trying to create a closer connection with, the people that report to you and the people that you're working with. And if you have more of a real-time view of, okay, this week you had, 5 karma, like Andrew said, it gives you some insight into one specific thing that people or peers appreciate the work that they're doing. And you're always looking for markers to see, okay, if you didn't get any karma, I'd find that interesting as well. So like, hey, I see that you shipped 10 cards this week, but didn't receive any karma. Do people not understand how to use the system, or the tools that we're using, or did people not value the work that you did? Help me understand. And I always look for things like that to help me do better one-on-ones, actually.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you look at Intel. They were one of the first companies to roll out OKRs and KPIs, mainly OKRs. And usually people at Intel, at least when in the golden years, they all had an individual OKR of, this is how I roll up. So my own OKRs and KPIs roll up to this departmental, this department rolls up into this division rolls up to the entire company. And it's really interesting because then you can self-measure and self-report. And I really love the idea of letting people self-report, right? A trust but verify system, if you will. What did you do? Tell me what you did. And I have a responsibility to say, okay, you said you did X, but I looked at the system and you did Y, right? Or an opportunity for everyone to have an honest conversation of, hey, I said I was going to do X, I did Z, I need help to get to Y. Or if you're a good manager, you say, okay, right, you reported Z, you had X, how can I help you get to X? And continue having that conversation along with a lot of signifiers, right? So even if you achieve your goals, but you stop everyone from achieving theirs in the process of getting your own, well, then you're tearing down the entire operation as a company, right? You're hurting the entire department. And so having your other teammates be able to give you reviews and tell people about them and say, hey, very excellent worker, but bad team member, happens a lot in sales. Fahad, that guy that steals and stuff, that guy is helping himself. He'll hit his numbers or her numbers, but they're not going to let the other part of the company hit their numbers. And at the end of the day, OKRs roll up. So if one person hits their numbers, but the rest of the department doesn't, the department's not hitting its OKRs. And most likely, if you're doing it, it might not hurt the division overall, but it could very well. Most companies, because they try to exactly divvy up the numbers and have no buffer, they'll look at that and it could hurt the whole company, just because that one person decided to have bad teammanship.
I think Andrew is what we're trying to make within that context within our product is by just not only giving points, but what we're trying to make our clients do with our system is with our product is just give a nice description to every win or every celebration, every appreciation. So just instead of just having a number of points, like 15 or 20 or 25, as the most value we have are in those descriptions. Like, what description would the person give to the other person? Why do they deserve a celebration or deserve a recognition? And we also kind of but we are linking that particular description with a particular company value. And when we do that, the whole giving karma brings more sense, and it's not only an individual win, but it's also a company win from a value perspective. And we also see that the people who use our product, they try to use our product without giving any descriptions, like, hey, here's your karma, hey, +1, like plus, and things like that, where we find that bring no benefit. Like, the other person exactly could have 15 or 20 or 25 points from everyone else, but he could be a bad team player. But when you bring the actual descriptions and then you align those descriptions with the company values, you kind of see what that person does. Like a bad team player would never have, like 25 or 30 or 40% of his recognition land in the teamwork value. For example, we have like one of the preset values we have is a teamwork. So if you look at that person and then you see that he has, maybe like 30% of all his recognitions land up in a teamwork, so you kind of get an idea that he's a team player. But if he has none there, you still take that with a grain of skepticism, of course, because it might as well just be that he just didn't receive any recognitions, but he's a great team player. But he also does a lot of other things and a lot of values to strive, and
One last comment to that. I feel like some people might game the system here. Like, you have, I'd be interested on your thoughts on like a point grading system where, like, Andrew, could have gotten me a coffee and I gave him 5 karma points, but somebody else shipped an entire project and they got 2 karma points. And now Andrew all of a sudden has 100 karma points for doing, coffee runs.
Yeah.
And this poor engineer has been shipping code and he has 5 karma points. So how do you like reconcile that?
Maybe Andrew brings good coffees, like if they're good coffees, they may be well worth 100 points.
I'm solid, man. And how to order some coffee.
Yeah. So, and again, that's something that we've been through a few stages in our products. So first, we've thought about, hey, let's make grade. Like, let's say that just simple help is 1 point, and let's make a mantra, because we've been facing exactly the same questions and exactly the same issues when we're working on our product. And then let's say we'll make a grade system. Like if it's a coffee, Andrew, well done, 1 point, but you cannot give 5 points for a coffee. If it's above and beyond, like you didn't have to do it, but you've stayed late and just delivered, that's 10 points. If a milestone ship, that'll be 5 points. So we made the whole grade system up to 25 points, and no one ever used that because it's so. And again, that goes back to the conversation that we had just a question ago about bullying and everything else, and who makes a decision how many points would something be worth. And like, again, someone stayed after hours, shipped the feature, they come back to work and they say, well done, here's your 2 points. Hey, Andrew, that's a really nice coffee, 5 points, mate. And things like that. It's again, so what we kind of our latest vision on this whole thing is it's only 1 and 2 points, nothing else. So 1 point is something ordinary, everyday stuff, like coffee and things like that. If we deliver a product, ship a feature, go above and beyond, win a client, really something significant, we give 2 points. But I do have a feeling that in the end of the day, we'll get back to just 1 point system. Just a feeling and a vision that we're kind of linked towards lately. So
one thing I've become obsessed with recently is like baseball cards for people. What are people's strengths? What are their weaknesses? And you're talking about descriptions earlier, and I thought it's a perfectly good word cloud. What words do people use to describe you very often when they're giving you positive feedback? And then on Fahad's point, to completely contradict myself, what do people say in your negative feedback? What words are people using to describe you when you're not getting positive reinforcement from your team? I think that could be a really interesting data point for most people, right? Do they say that you're friendly? And then when they're giving you negative feedback that you suck, right? Like, and there are people that fit that criteria. I know people that are great glue people. They bring teams together, they galvanize them, they keep them marching towards the same goal. But there's some of the worst engineers I know. And that's fine. If you're a company that can afford that, those people are powerful. They can 10x an entire team. But most small teams can't afford that kind of person, right? They can't have a galvanizer, they can't have that glue person. So keeping that in mind, I think if you guys haven't built a word cloud out for those descriptions, I think it'd be a pretty trivial feature to build, and then let businesses get a unique insight into how people are describing each other.
I think Andrew, that's a really good point. We've been kind of thinking about the whole descriptions, and we do use the natural language processing just to analyze those descriptions, and when we align them with the company value. But I think your point is even more valid. Like what words would people use more often to describe a person? And I think one of the most common words that we have in Karma would be the word great. Like this would be great and thank you. That would be the most frequently seen combinations on all the recognitions and appreciations. But yeah, just building some kind of a word map that you can see for a person would be a good feature to have, and like it'll provide more insights on the actual person's personality.
Let's wrap up because we're pretty far in. It's about 45 minutes, and we kind of always like to wrap up with David or Andrew. You can share some of the thoughts you have on the future of these types of tools and the future of like performance reviews, HR. What do you see upcoming? What's on your radar? Is anything interesting kind of for you?
So that is a really good question. And what I'm thinking is, because everyone using chats right now, and it's been evolved that everyone would use the instant communication, the HR is evolving as well. So for example, if we look at the HR and the traditional methods, how it's been working for years, all those, employee rewards, the celebration of one person or 100 and things like that, those things do not work in the modern world. So we do see that people use individual rewards less and less, and they opt out for micro feedback and small wins, and making a lot of people use and feel great about something rather than just one person feel good about something. So as the emails kind of dying out and chats become more and more effective in our everyday's life, same goes with HR. It will become more of a micro feedback. It will become more of a micro wins over the big wins. So that's what I'm thinking. That's where I think we're going, and it's all going to happen instant. We're not going to wait for a long time to get a review. If we'd like to get a feedback, it'll be instant and things like that. So it'll become more and more dynamic.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man. Thanks for listening. You can always connect with us at skiplist.com.